Hi, everybody. Thank you for taking time out of your lives to be with us tonight. We really appreciate you. Just so you're aware, Anna is going to do some filming tonight to have a capture of what we're talking about. We are not here to present any ideas or even information. We're here to take in what people are thinking and how we can listen to what the ideas are present, the best way to go forward. So,
Thank you.
maybe we should, because it's such a small group, and I think most of us know each other, but it's nice to go around for a minute, just say who we are. I'm Jack Balderman, Superintendent.
Leah Hanover, Board President.
Hi, I'm Danny Malloy.
Well, thank you all so much for being here. My name is Edith Corrington. I am the bilingual director, also community outreach coordinator for our district. And so I'm going to be facilitating these listening sessions. There is a little bit of structure to these sessions just so that we're all heard. Equity is really important to me, and I want to make sure that if you took the time to be here, that you are heard and that you feel that when you leave. And so there are a few commitments that I'd like us to keep in mind as we're having these conversations. I really want you to speak your truth. Don't hold back, speak your truth, but stay kind always. I want you to listen to understand. Don't listen to someone and have a response in your head as you're listening. Really just to listen, to understand, not to respond. And then everyone has a voice. No one is going to dominate this conversation because we want to make sure that everyone is heard. Everyone has different perspectives. And so we're going to go about it a little bit differently. And that's because we have to plan for a small group or a large group. You don't really know what to expect. And so if we want all voices heard, we're going to make sure that that happens tonight. And so this is how it's going to work tonight. So you're already in small groups. Once you see the question, you're just going to reflect silently. Think about it yourself, your thoughts on that question. And then we're going to have speaking rounds. So each one of you at that table will get 2 minutes. We're going to say 2 minutes to answer the question, comment, share any thoughts that you have. And then you'll talk as a group. You'll talk among your group together. And then we're going to have a reporter, someone to report out just the themes of the conversation that you've had today. It's really, really important to me that we leave individual names or just controversial statements out of it. Let's really be here to seek solutions. So this is the way we're going to go about it. I'm going to have my phone as actually I'm going to ask for help. Can I have a timer?
I have my watch.
Okay.
My teacher watch is ready to go.
Beautiful.
What default setting would you
Wonderful.
like?
Okay, so the first, and my phone actually just has this, so I don't have to keep going back to it. So the first question that I'd like you just to simply think about for a minute. There's no talking, you're just thinking about it. If you'd like to write notes, there are pencils at the table. If anyone needs paper, let me know. I'm gonna find it here from Steve.
Feel
but-
free to use
I was
your
gonna
dry
say,
erase.
there's
Yeah.
dry erase and
Yep.
expo on the table too, if you didn't bring
Yep.
paper like me.
Okay, so we'll start with that. And the first question that we have
They do the brand new down here. I put them out last week.
is, as we continue working on solving the facility issues, what do you need to hear from us? What do you need from us?
Timer started. 2 minutes.
So
in.
just think about that, write your own notes. So now everyone will get 2 minutes,
On
okay,
our table,
at your table.
I'll announce.
So raise your hand if who's starting? Who's starting the conversation?
oh,
Okay. You'll start the conversation, thank you, Danny. Can you remind me your name?
Carrie.
Carrie, thank you. Who's gonna start it here?
Hi.
What's your name?
Bill.
Bill, thank you, Bill. Okay, are we ready? And Dana, I haven't turned it over.
You got it now?
Yes.
Okay, good.
All right, ready? So each person gets 2 minutes. Ready? Start.
Okay.
Okay, we are going to move on to the next person. So, okay, so finish your last thoughts. What I'm going to ask you to do next is,
And that might actually deter.
I have placed white sheets of paper at the front of your desk. Like that, you have them back here, there's some here, there's some here. So now what I want you to do, I know you've been chatting together individually, but you've been chatting together. What I need you to talk about now is what you're going to present to us, your themes, kind of themes for your conversation. That's what, because we're gonna collect that, okay? So, who wants to be
She's got better handwriting than me.
the note taker? Yes?
Not saying much for you.
I know, it's really sad.
Who would like to summarize your conversation here?
Good?
Okay. Who would like to do it here?
What we're, I mean,
Who would like to take it?
Lisa loves to take notes.
Lisa.
you're in all the.
We're trying to come up with a theme.
I just had a
You want it on paper.
conversation with them. It was-
Okay, go ahead. So, who would like it? Who would like to start off sharing their themes from their groups? I heard Tim.
What are we doing?
You're just going to share your themes.
Okay, transparency of building costs. What is that second thing, maintenance, is that all the same thing? Oh, okay. Alternate financing, what is structurally wrong with the buildings, and then no plan B that I think people wanted to see. Do you want us to expand on any of that
Yes.
stuff? Oh, okay.
All
Could
of
you,
it.
could you state one more time, please?
Yeah, the transparency of the building costs, and then maintenance on manning, what is exactly needed. Alternate financing, meaning that idea that was brought up in the last meeting about SSAs, I think that needs to be explored a lot more. What's structurally wrong with the building, and then no plan B, meaning that there weren't really two options that were presented at the, is that what,
I think it was no plan B if the referendum failed.
oh, okay, all right.
Thank you so much. Can you guys go next?
Yes, I will try this. We kind of ran out of time, I think, but one big theme that we had talked about is when we're sort of making decisions about what areas we should look to improve with the school is really considering the impact to the student experience. So whether that be from a timing perspective or, you know, how we're sort of delivering different services is just always prioritizing things from the lens of our students, because that can lead us, that can't lead us wrong, right? If we have students who are thriving and we're prioritizing things based on those, that keeps our North Star in sight. We also talked about, you know, trying to educate the community and really sort of challenging the way that things have always been. So sort of what are those creative solutions? How can we maybe do some comparisons with neighboring schools or districts or areas outside of the area that can show us, you know, what happens if we go down this path, or maybe creative ways that they've sort of addressed some of the issues. And then the final thing, and this was very central to my heart because this has a lot to do with what I do for work, is I love that centralized view and like planning around all of the concerns and opportunities and projects, and have those be systematically prioritized by the student experience, by level of effort, by difficulty in implementation, and have visibility into you know, what's been approved, where it's at in certain phases, and then continue to be nimble and reprioritize things as things pop up. So, and that may be happening and I'm just not in the loop for it, but for me, I think that would give a lot of confidence and help with some of the transparency things that are going on.
I would just add to what she said, like, what is the loop per se, right? Like, we have a person who's saying, I'm new to this discussion, who's a member of our community. We have people who will never, ever come to a meeting like this, yet are voting to make that decision. We have the PTO president who said, I just now found on the website where to find XYZ. So there are people who are very dialed in, who are having trouble accessing info, like all the way to the people who I could go give them a presentation myself and they wouldn't want the info, right? So how do we figure out accessibility of information?
Thank you so much. And then let this group here.
Okay. One thing that came up was transparency about, so if taxes go up in a calendar year, how does this impact district operations and budget, even without a referendum? I think just being really transparent, and that seems like it's a theme that's coming up with everyone about that, and also being explicit about what bucket this money goes into. So just kind of another education piece about how those tax dollars are working in the district. Echoing something from the first group, what is or was the backup for no referendum? So I think just wondering, you know, knowing that it had to get voted on, talking through like what is the district going to do at this point? And well, I guess we're here now, so maybe that's the answer. And then how will the district prioritize the allocation of resources, knowing there are immediate needs at Manning? So that was something that kept coming up. What is the community willing to sacrifice if we say, okay, these are the most important things that we want to tackle with any kind of funds? So kind of the idea of community prioritization and what seems to be what people are gravitating toward in terms of what would be at the top of that list. And that was it.
So if I can collect your notes, because I will forget. Jamie B is so much.
Yeah.
Okay. The next question is this one. So I will give you a minute just to think of it on your own. Okay? So 1 minute time. Alrighty, okay, so we are going to begin the same format. Each of you gets 2 minutes. We'll go around. One person talking, the other people are listening. That table back there, if you guys were all sharing and it works for you, that's okay too. So, point is, let's have these conversations. So, you ready?
Instead of 2 minute, 2 minute, 2 minute, okay.
2 minute, yes. So ideally, we'd want each of you to speak for 2 minutes and everyone else listens as part of the listening session and not necessarily have a conversation about it because everyone may have different thoughts. So that's what we'd like to do. Ready? And who's gonna start?
I'll start.
Okay, go. That piece here is to just synthesize what everyone has said and take some notes. So who's gonna be the note taker? Because I'm gonna collect these, just so you know.
No, to be honest with you, I think I'm
Are you taking notes?
No, that's okay. He said it.
Okay.
It's hard to like take 2 minutes of words and coalesce it into like a sentence.
Yeah, and you were right.
That were discussed were, you know, applying for grants, seeing how we might be able to leverage sales tax to offset some of the costs, maybe see if we can grow the TIF account. All of that said, recognizing that we might need to figure out who sort of is the person to chase all of this stuff down, right? Other things, the other two things are really around, you know, phasing the rebuild of some of the facilities. So first of all, can we got the existing buildings, like what is the cost associated with that? How can we sort of do that in a phased approach and or play with some, you know, start-stop dates of school to kind of work out around when the schools might be out of commission? Or is there a way to temporarily fit all the kids in one school, the K-5 in all in one school while this happens? Those are kind of ideas to address sort of the logistical challenges associated with that. And then this is more from my standpoint, stepping into all of this, is when I'm asked to think about alternatives to the referendum, I mean, my mind goes to like really big, crazy ideas. I don't know what are the guardrails behind the solution. So like, what is the space I can play in to like then kind of, you know, be a little bit creative with some of this. So that's why I just struggled with this question, but that's because I'm coming in from the outside, so. That's what
Because I've been to a lot of things and I still need the guardrails. Because it's not the world we live in, right? If we're not educators, we don't know all the things.
Please finish your question. That's a really important one. Who would like to go next?
Go.
Thank you.
Having details of building analysis from an independent company. Also the impact on the community financially, not just the families with school-age children. And reallocating educational expenses to support the facility, particularly admin salaries. To cut educational expenses to support the facility, particularly admin salaries.
Thank you.
Can you read the second one? What was the second one again?
What was that?
What was the second one?
Impact on all of the community financially, not just the families with school-age children.
We also echoed trying to figure out how to exhaust any other possible funding sources if possible. And then this wasn't an option that we were all necessarily in favor of, but potentially looking at the cost of completely remodeling Miller and Manning, and a part of that also being potentially expanding Manning by maybe buying up the bank parking lot to build a new playground, and correct me any of this if I'm not getting it right, and redo the entrance to make it safer. So potentially, knowing that this is pretty landlocked and a small footprint, like is there any possibility for expansion for Manning in particular? And then potentially knowing that Miller is a little bit bigger of footprint, still not very big, I think it's like a little over 3 acres, but potentially rebuilding or building a new school on that lot and having students able to still go to school in the existing structure, because there wouldn't be any green space for a while, but potentially looking at what that would look like. Could you make that big enough to accommodate K-5? I don't know. That would probably involve buying up some houses around there, which I know people aren't necessarily into that idea, but just throwing out anything. So, did I miss anything?
Thank you so much. I'm actually gonna pass this around because I realized I'm probably not gonna remember your names. If you can put your name and phone number, as I type these notes and have additional questions, I would love to reach out to you just for clarification, or maybe to ask you to be on a committee. Who knows, but if you can write your full name and phone number, I'd appreciate that. You don't have to do the phone number if you don't like, but. So as we wrap up, is there anything else that anyone else wants to share before we? Is there any other thoughts or?
I think the only thing that I mentioned that we didn't share in like our summarizations, and maybe we did and I just heard it wrong, is the now what. What I was telling this group is like, it's my understanding that this is the system that the state of Illinois has set up for us to tackle large like facilities needs. And so if we are not like participating in that system, what are our options? Like, what do we do? So I think I just need a little clarity on, like, yeah, how do you plan B this thing?
So it is my understanding, and Jack, Leah, correct me if I'm mistaken, it is my understanding that these 3 sessions that we're going to have tonight, and then we have 2 more, are truly just to listen, so that we can then reconvene and go to that part 2.
Okay.
Almost like now we have more information, now what? So we truly haven't talked about that.
Sure.
You know, of course, we've explored ideas just like you have been doing here, but we truly want to listen. And then I think that part 2, that maybe moving forward, will, almost like a rebranding of sorts of, now what? You know, now that we have more information, now what? So please encourage people to come out. We truly are listening. We truly care what you have to say, and we truly need your input to answer that question. Yes?
I wanted to say, I wonder how well known it is that like tonight was held, but also that you have 2 more in the future. I randomly heard about it on social media. When I looked, and admittedly I just glanced, but I didn't see anything about tonight on the website until I was scrolling through the calendar, which might not have meant anything to anybody. I could have missed it, like I said.
It
But
was a
also,
pop-up, right? And then it was right on top of the, but you
Okay.
but you missed it, and maybe it needs to be bigger.
but also like there were automated phone calls made to get out and vote. What if could automated phone calls be made to like, hey, we're having these sessions for you to hear from you? Or there was a mailer sent out, I remember last summer, these are some upcoming sessions for you, to give you information. Maybe because I was a little bit shocked that there aren't more people. So it's just a suggestion.
Thank you for your suggestion, I appreciate that.
I think 2 things, and maybe we do this, I feel like that's gonna be the statement I make, cause I'm just not as plugged into it. But just thinking about some of the community events, maybe there's an opportunity to have a little booth or a table, like I know there's the one that's coming up in Time Warner, to help give information and or collect some additional ideas or solutions. And then I think the other thing, again, someone who is, you know, stepping into this, it is intimidating, to be honest with you, like trying to enter into this. I mean, no one here specifically is intimidating. It's just not knowing about like the process. And I wonder too if there's just like a 101 on how all of this, like the governance around all of this works. Cause like, I know there's like the PTO, there's the school board, there's the board, there's, you know, I just don't know how it all works and like what the purview is over the different areas. And then I get 3 different invites for 3 different events and I'm like, well, which one of these can I attend that's gonna, you know, make the most impact or be the most useful. So I think just like that 101 on how this all works would be awesome.
You are talking about just within the schools, right? So
Yeah.
like the different, if I'm understanding you correctly.
Yeah.
Kind of like a one-stop shop for, this is what the Board of Education does, and this is how you contact them, this is what each PTO is, and this is their board structure, and this is how you contact them, this is what BPAC is, I think about the other, you're talking like kind of that,
Yeah,
but like
that,
a one-stop
but then-
shop situation?
Yeah, for sure, one-stop shop, and then also I think just like following where the referendum has like started and gone, like even as an example, right? Like I just don't even understand it from that like example perspective. Does that make sense?
I'm hearing like historical context.
timeline.
And
Yeah.
and in the beginning I was hearing like financially, like understanding how public school finances run.
Yes.
And
Like a
knowing,
civics
yeah.
101, we need.
Yeah.
Well,
Right,
right,
the
that's what we were
community
talking
needs.
about. Right, yeah, is to know like how is a school budget different from a personal home budget, right? Or what are the limitations and guardrails of how a school spends its money versus how I would spend my
A
money, you know?
business, yeah.
Right, or how a business would spend its money, right? Because those are all kind of different
Yeah,
things.
for sure. And then, but then there's also like the village board.
Right.
And then, so like, I'm like, yeah. just as an as some
It's
example.
like an infographic that shows
Yeah.
like where
We could do it for
things
us.
have purview,
We
right.
can't bring the other boards
No,
because we're not
that's
that,
fine.
but,
And
but I think
maybe
that,
it's not-
if
yeah.
I'm understanding you correctly, I think that's something that's
Yeah.
perfectly attainable.
Could I ask kind of a follow-up to that? First, my comment was thank you for hosting this and being willing to listen to the community because it is very valuable, because you guys are passionate and you wanna come and meet with the community. So thanks for showing up here night after night after night, 3 times to do this. But the other thing was, to that point, obviously, the way State of Illinois is set up, if you're gonna do any type of financial stuff, you have to put it up for referendum, if you're gonna do taxing or anything like that. So what is the actual timeline then? Like, you can only put it up so many times, right? So even if we change it,
No.
or like, you can put it every, so then when's the next time? Because right now, do we just have to sit on this? So my kids are gonna come here next year and come home coughing because of the HVAC. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, when's the next time that something can happen? Do you know what I mean, to take it back to the community?
Spring 2026.
That's the next time.
That is, to be
Thank you.
clear,
I gotta push back a little
No,
bit on the
so-
HVAC system you just brought up.
Keith, I'm gonna answer that in the way that you want, in the way that you want, okay, buddy?
You know me well.
To be clear, the next time that we could ask for a referendum, of which we have 3 options of what we ask for, 2 different options of what we ask for, I should say, is the next general election, which is spring of 2026, which is the primary.
Primary.
That is the next time that we can ask we can ask the community for anything.
Right.
As far as like what happens, right, that's a different question, and that's part of what we're trying to solve right now, because there very well may be, and there probably are, projects that, we will take care of, and a big chunk of that is prioritizing, and that's a lot of this, cause maybe we do all of this, and it's like, we gotta take care of the HVAC, and so we gotta figure out how to spend whatever, right? Does that make sense? So there's kind of 2 different things there, if that clarifies. And does that also answer it in the way you were thinking, Keith, that we can still do stuff?
Can you please expand, Keith, can you please expand on what you were gonna say?
We've never had anybody come in and say what's wrong. An independent person. I mean, the teachers come to school every day, the students come to school every day, so it can't be horrific here. So,
What have you heard?
My children go here, and I've heard stuff from the teachers who have left this building and went to Manning, and they have noticed the difference in their health from being in different buildings. Or Miller, yeah. When they did the divide, there are impacts that I've heard directly from teachers.
So, has there been a study done?
Over the years, like, I don't wanna go into like too much detail and speak out of
Is it
turn.
unsafe here?
Every time that there has been a need to study, we've done a study. Is it technically unsafe? It's hard to answer that question.
Bodies are different.
Because of course, anytime that we're required by law to do quite a number of things as it pertains to health and safety. And also, what those like guardrails are for health and safety are not things that we set. Yeah, it's hard to answer that question. Yes, we have had studies done anytime that we've had stuff happen, that we've been, because we're required to do them. And do those studies say that this building is unhealthy? That's kind of not how that's not how the studies work, to be very honest.
So an
They'll
air
tell you
study
what to
has
fix.
been taken here. That doesn't put your fears to rest though, does it?
I guess I don't understand what you're asking.
She said that they do take studies and it's
Yeah, but you
safe.
like, I think what she's trying to say is like you come in and you test for like mold, and that's the test that they send off and run. It's not like the bigger picture.
Or
Like-
that's subjective, right?
Yeah, like you can't.
You could say, health and safety wise, a home with no air conditioning, right, is a perfectly acceptable home to be in. But if I'm a person with a health condition that like needs to not get overheated or whatever, you know what I mean? Like how that lack of air conditioning would affect my body very differently than maybe to affect your body. So like that's the hard part of how like airborne things or whatever could affect different students based on their body chemistry, their vulnerabilities differently than other
even
students,
staff.
right? It's tricky, that's a little condemnable.
Made public, the ones that you've been talking about that occur on a periodic basis, because I don't, ever recall seeing the results of any of those on the website or anywhere else. Can
I
you make those
can't
available
answer
to
that
us?
right now
Yeah.
with details, because I'm not prepared to answer that right now, I don't have that. But I think Lisa spoke to that, right? What is safe for the majority of the population is not always what people react to. Some people are more susceptible to different air qualities, and those are different things.
I'm taking all of these notes as well.
Are you talking anecdotally about like upper respiratory things, like, or like bronchitis? Like, you know, I'm just curious, like what anecdotally what you've heard.
I'm not qualified to speak on all that either. I just know multiple people have mentioned stuff to me.
Yeah.
And I know sample size of my one child who's here and their associates and friends and from their parents. So
Yeah.
I'm not, yeah.
I think that's hard. Like, I've worked in an old building
Yeah.
when I used to live in the city, and like people would get like bronchitis all the time. But it passed. You know, we were able to work there, but
Right.
people would consistently get sick. And so it is, you know, hearing that, I don't have any kids here yet, but it is concerning, even if it's just anecdotally. So I would just be, you know, curious if they're, I don't know how you can't test that, you know, but yeah, definitely as a parent of young kids.
And some
it's
of it might
concerning.
just be a comfort issue because it's an old system, and in my understanding it's a boiler, and you can't just easily turn it on and off the way you can for like this time of year in the shoulder seasons. So you have kids who are forced to either be extra hot because it's switching the boiler off, and you can't just do that. The ACs run differently in each room. You all have
And
been
there's
in here
different
know
units because
it's
there's additions that were put on and that runs on something different than this runs on, and that
It's not
when you're up in this room you have to do that, but you can't do that in this room and you have to go ask this person, that person's gotta go ask this person. There's a lot of moving pieces.
And this also, to like one of the things, my biggest advocation over here was student experience.
Yeah.
So now you have these little children who are trying to learn stuff and they're uncomfortable, you know what I mean? We do our best to have window AC units in some classrooms, but that's gonna be a distraction for them. It's just not an optimal learning environment regardless, aside from them coming home, coughing, whatnot. So it's just, again, look at their experience, right? Like, do good for them. So thank you for clarifying some of that, because I'm hearing a third grader's interpretation of why they have to wear like short sleeves, and I'm like, but it'll be 20 degrees out, and they're like, no, you don't understand.
Right.
It's, yeah, they don't.
Right. And the tricky part of that, right, is that we make these decisions with our adult brains and our adult bodies. And so we are, I would say, of Westmont, hard-working stock, right? We're not frail little daisies in this town. And so it's tricky when, yeah, we hear that and we just like, just put on a sweatshirt, kid, you know, like, but that little bodies and little brains who are trying to learn, they can't muster up that stuff in the same way that we can. Just tricky.
Yes. I would also say there's 4 days of school left, not
Yes.
much time, but you are welcome to come in and spend some time in a classroom and just hang out with the kids. Ella, you'd love that, right?
They love kids.
So I know there's only 4 days left, but you know, you're more than welcome to come just for your sake. So before we leave today, I want to go back to our commitments to each other, to this meeting, because if we don't, then what's the point, right? So do you feel like you were able to speak your truth, stay kind, listen to understand, not respond? Everyone had a voice, no one dominated the conversation. How do you feel we did with our collective commitments? Good?
Yes.
Great. Do you feel this, I'm gonna ask you guys because this is one of 3, do you feel like this format worked, or, again, I don't know if I'm expecting 10 or 50, do you feel like this was a good format moving forward? Yes? Well,
It might be harder to meet the
yeah,
time
we might have to
commitment.
shrink the,
Mhm.
maybe the conversation at the time. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your night